You're getting ready to start a new campaign, and you're going to need some non-player characters for your players' characters to interact with. And if you've watched YouTube videos on the subject, you'll know the secret to being a great game master is having great non-player characters. And it's essential that they have fully fleshed out narrative skeletons with hopes and drives, plot hooks, backgrounds, colour, occupations, goals, attitudes, skills, aptitudes, demeanours versus natures, stakes, sexualities, likeability indices, degrees of proactivity, and maybe a funny voice. That sounds tiring. What if we don't bother? It's easy to prepare encounters with monsters. We just need to note down what they are, how many, and maybe what objective they have, unless their plan is simply stand about until someone comes and then kill them. When it comes to the players interacting with other people in the game world, we don't know what they're going to be asked about. So the temptation is to fall down the rabbit hole. Prepare, prepare, prepare. And any number of great YouTube channels will give you a checklist of things they say your NPC needs. But do they mean every NPC? And when does the NPC need them? Before I get into it, I have some book recommendations for you this video. Stick around to the end or spoil yourselves by having a look in the description below. I can't stop you. There's links and stuff there. Over the years, I've tried many different ways to write up non-player characters for the games I've run. I started with RuneQuest, which encouraged me to fully stat out everyone as if they were a playable character with skills and hit points and the whole shebang. But later I switched to other systems, and that had me abbreviating them down, having a few notes on skills and maybe a hit point total. By the time I got to Apocalypse World, I was ready for a change. And here it was. Only the players rolled dice. So none of the NPCs need stats. It was up to me as the GM to decide if the NPCs were successful. I wasn't relying on random numbers. If the players didn't stop them, the NPCs would be successful. That's kind of the plot. And Monster of the Week helped me get behind the idea of doom clocks. There's something ticking down, and each level of inaction or failure or insufficient effort pushes the villain's agendas forward. And since then I have a very simple system, which I apply to almost every non-player character. I call it the first name system, and it's going to be even simpler than you are expecting. Imagine the bar, the inn, the tavern, the traditional place to start. There's a barman, they're serving 4 patrons before the players come in. All 5 of those people, the barman included, have homes, and while they might not all have children or spouses, they're all going to have parents. All of these people can have rich and detailed lives away from the player character's gaze. Who knows where they live, what their obsessions are, who they may have wronged, what axes they have to grind. Not me, not initially. I don't want to write a load of NPCs that the players won't interact with, who they'll talk to for maybe 3 seconds. It'll feel like a waste. It'll feel like I've done all the work and no one's appreciating it. And I don't need to. If what I do is I follow my player's lead, I can skip all of these complications. I ask the barman for a beer and take it to the corner and sit at the table. That's the player telling me they want to sit and scope out the room, watch for opportunities or threats. It's not them saying they want me to reply with, "Hello, adventurer. Where are you hailed from? My name is Ivan, the barman." "Huh, funny story. My grandfather's axe has gone No, I'm not being invited to do that. And if I do, it feels artificial. It feels computer gamey. Everyone has a quest. If I have the barman written up, all the sections of the NPC Mad Libs template filled in with adjectives and objects, then I'm going to be bursting to put that work to use. And this means I'm not holding the ideas I have lightly. I'm going to make the conversation with the barman happen. Play Unsafe is a fantastic book of advice for players and GMs by Graham Walmsley. There's a link in the description below, and I really urge you to pick up a copy. I read it with a huge grin on my face, as I found so many things that agreed with how I game master games, and other ways that I could build on those principles, and Graham's writing has pushed me to take them further. And the Story Games Names project, bit of a mouthful, is a fantastic resource for giving NPCs names on the fly. So do check that out. Again, it's in the description down below. So what's my method? I have a list of names for the NPCs, maybe on paper, maybe in my head, but I don't have any of them assigned. If the players don't introduce themselves or ask the NPC their name, then this is as in-depth and soul-searching as when I'm in the shop buying tea or biscuits. I don't introduce myself to the people at the till. I might describe the NPC in more detail than just their role in the scene, but in a recent adventure we spent half the night referring to two of the NPCs as the blonde human and the dark-haired human. I knew what they were there to do, which was rob a bank. The player characters knew what their role in the scene was, but more detail than that wasn't needed. It was only when they started interrogating and capturing them that there was any need for them to have names or opinions on things. They're bank robbers. What's their motivation? Well, they want to rob a bank. And what will they do? Well, they'll go ahead and they'll rob the bank. One of the things that Graham suggests in Play Unsafe is something that I think saves a lot of time and stops every encounter turning into a riddle. Be obvious. There's no need for a vast inner ocean for any one-off NPC. When they fought and subdued the two robbers and I wanted them to be part of a larger plot, I had the bandit-in-chief finally recognize the PCs. He was someone they'd wronged before, but not met face to face. There's no danger of, but you told us Dax had a scar last time, because I've not given them a detailed photo fit previously. So I can be sure I can tie a loose end in without any contradiction. Now he has a name and he's survived the adventure, has been handed over to the cops. When I want to have a returning baddie later, I will have him spring loose from jail, slip away into the night and come back to haunt them. And I'll probably write up some more details for him. But I'm only going to write him up because he has already appeared in play, had a first-person conversation with the characters, been named, and been revealed as someone they might meet up with again. I still won't decide where he comes from or what his relatives are. I want to hold him lightly, because as Apocalypse World has encouraged me, I do like to keep all my NPCs in the crosshairs. If a trusted ally can get horribly murdered, then why would I want to get attached to the villains? Play to find out what happens, hold the ideas lightly, and don't decide details until you've been asked. And when you are, be obvious. I do enjoy making NPC portraits in Hero Forge, who are not sponsors of today's video. No one is, but I hold off on showing them to the players until the NPC has become important enough. I can always use them for someone else later. If I want to switch the murder victim to be a character the players have more of a connection with, I can easily do that if it's not at all dependent on the detailed backstory that ties them to a specific set of events. They can't focus on the wrong NPC if the important one is whoever they're going to find to be important to them. Yes, I know a lot of people love writing all of those details, and I dare say that if they're writing an actual novel, there's still no real need for the reader to have a detailed backstory. Think about Sherlock Holmes, the most famous detective in literary fiction. He has a brother. That's about it. He's barely described at all within the actual stories. If you love writing all of these things, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying you don't have to do it in order to be ready, and if this is the hurdle, let's take it away. Let's switch to writing NPCs after they've met the players instead of before. You don't need to do this much work. Keep a list of names handy, say the most obvious thing that comes to mind, be ready to follow your players as to who they consider interesting. In the real world, not every Tom, Dick and Harry is bounding up to introduce themselves to us as Thomas, Richard and Henry, and it's easy for this to become artificial. and feel like pieces of a game. It's actually less immersive, I find. And before I get a lot of indignation in the comments, yes, okay, if the goal of the adventure is to thwart one specific nobleman who happens to be a vampire, and there's going to be mini boss fights with his trusty lieutenants who are a werewolf and Frankenstein's monster and Abbott and Costello, then yes, it makes sense to write them all up so that the players can hear all sorts of rumours about how to defeat them and where they can be found. But maybe not every rumour peddler in between. And even so, I'd still suggest leaving some blanks on your big bads so that when you are surprised by a player's conjecture that sounds obvious now you think about it, they can turn out to be quite correct. You're not tied to a detail you don't want to overwrite, and they'll feel like they worked out the missing piece of a puzzle. Don't let on. Game master like magic. I started this channel because I believe games should be fun for all players. The game master is one of the players. This means that prep should be fun for the games master, not a chore, not a necessary evil, an unfortunate obligation, something to get through. It should be fun. You should enjoy it. You should look forward to doing it. If it's not making you excited to bring the results of it to your table, then you're going to burn out sooner or later because you're not having fun. I firmly believe that doing less prep, doing the right prep, makes it more fun for me at the table. For more on my prep less, have more fun approach, watch this video next.